Facepalm America. I'm Beowulf Rockland. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate that you attend this little session with us from time to time. And if you want to find out more, as always, you can go to facepalmamerica.com, listen to past episodes, connect with us on social media, and just in general, find out more about the show. There are some folks who have done some stalwart work in terms of political prankster, and I want to just credit them. Jason Selvig and Davram Stiefler are the good liars, and they have made a profession of getting into interesting places through a combination of cleverness and mendacity, but to a good end, to expose primarily folks on the political right and the silliness that they engage with and propound on a regular basis. And they've gone to places like CPAC. They've gone to like so many different political candidates and gotten them on the record saying very silly and contradictory things. And we applaud them greatly. And they are launching now a new podcast called The Good Liars Tell the Truth. The Good Liars are with us, Jason Selvig and Davram Stiefler. Welcome to Facepalm America. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having us.
Happy to be here. Yeah, thank you.
So, first of all, I have had the experience as someone who has, in the past, worked in right-wing media and had to, go to places like CPAC, at National Harbor in Maryland, and just kind of, hold my nose and bite my tongue. How do you guys go about going into a setting like that? What strategies do you use? And then what are your internal monologues as you walk by this churning parade of nonsense? Because it really is something when you're at an event like that.
Well, I think our biggest strategy is putting on Oxford shirts and tucking them into our khaki pants and walking with confidence and I guess maybe looking the way we do is part of the strategy to get in to fit in.
Being a white guy, a tall white guy definitely helps in a situation like that.
Yeah.
But as far as mentally, that's the physical part. But mentally, you were talking about the strain that it puts you under to be at a place like this.
Yeah.
It's true. We have to psych ourselves up in the mornings. They feel like really, really long days, even when they're not actually that long time-wise. You end feeling exhausted. We interview people, we talk to people, and watching people kind of turn themselves in knots and a lot of times walk away from the conversation seeming to not have heard the contradictions they just said aloud can be very, very exhausting work. So thanks for recognizing that.
No, I love it when somebody underlines the ridiculous of these positions. But here's a problem with it. It's just when someone is thoroughly devoted, regardless of what the position happens to be, to a particular point of view, to a particular worldview, and they're dug their heels in. Logic or highlighting it doesn't necessarily help. How have you guys just dealt with that aspect of things psychologically, where you bring again and again the particular facts and logic of a situation to someone, and they twist themselves in knots, and they can't untwist themselves because they're just in too deep? What's going through your minds when something like that happens?
Well, we've seen it kind of firsthand going to some Trump rallies, and we've been now to so many. I can't even. I really don't even think I could count them right now, which is sad for us. But we have we have some people that we've run into several times at the Trump rallies. And we've talked to them. They've kind of talked themselves into corners sometimes. And we'll see them again, and they are very happy to see us, and they're very polite most of the time. But they still believe everything that they believed before, because they're going back to that echo chamber that, getting their news from Donald Trump, going on Truth Social and Rumble and all these things, hearing the reinforcing of the facts that they've been telling us.
Covel.
Sorry, go ahead. If you want to take that line over again, that's fine.
No, Emily, I think you're on here. So it is interesting to see the same people over and over again and see that they haven't changed even after they've maybe been called out in some of the flaws in their way of thinking.
Yeah, so you can shine a light in somebody's face, but they won't necessarily see it if they're going to keep their eyes closed no matter what.
Exactly.
Right. We've had this feeling of as we talk to these people, you can really imagine them at the local bar or at a barbecue or wherever they're gathering with their friends. You can imagine them saying these things and getting positive reinforcement. You can hear it, that they're hoping to get that from you and that they're getting that from everyone they attended this rally with.
Right.
And then when you kind of ask one or two like simple follow-ups and it totally falls apart, on rare occasions they'll say, oh, maybe that was, contradictory. But most of the time they'll kind of like physically turn back toward their friends and be like, these people will tell me I did a good job, that I said a good thing.
Yeah.
So yes, it is a very, you can even see it happen where people are like, will retreat back to their group of friends and back to the comfort zone, as we all do to some degree, but sometimes this is more stark. With this group of people,
it gives you a real sense. I don't know. I suppose for the worse in a situation like this, although it can be a positive thing, how thoroughly we are social animals. We are just like so connected to the social group and dependent on the positive reinforcement of those around us. And that can be a positive thing, but it can also be a horrible thing when a particular idea gets stuck within a particular social group, and that's where you get all your positive reinforcement from. All your positive social interactions happen to be from an extremely toxic group. I mean, it doesn't matter because like logic is abstract, whereas the social connections that we form, those are very real to us, and they impact our daily lives and how we feel. And if we don't get those social interactions, we become depressed, and so we seek them out, whether they're online, whether they're on Facebook, whether they're on Twitter or TikTok or whatever it happens to be, or preferably in the real world. But then if they're attached to this horrible set of ideas, you like you say, it doesn't really matter, because they're just going to go back and they're going to get the same kind of reinforcement, and they're going to say, oh God, if only I had this like one great response, I would have had it. I remember, because I grew up in a very conservative family, and I have since evolved politically, but one of the things that I had that I kept with me, and maybe they do this to one extent or another, was even in middle school and high school, I would carry around in my pocket a little like a National Rifle Association talking points card that had little arguments on it, and like maybe they don't literally have that anymore, but that's essentially what each of these people is carrying around in their head. This set of talking points that they have heard and been indoctrinated with, and middle school, the younger you get them, the more entrenched that's going to be, and often more difficult it is to see any other point of view.
Yeah,
I would love to see that card.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, now that card is just Twitter. People just get on Twitter. And
exactly.
Like, this is what I say now.
Yeah. No, totally. This was like in 1989 or 9, but I can see it now. It was a little white card with green stuff on it, and I carried it around. And I said, "Gotta think about what the arguments are," because I grew up in liberal Marin County, but I was a little like right winger running around. And I had this card, and it was just such a funny thing. And I've sort of been blessed with that like weird contradiction in the end, then the evolution of both going to college and like spending time in the real world, and having to get health insurance and stuff like that. And so having looked at clouds from both sides now, but not many people get that experience. Not many people have that sort of like paradigm shift that they're able to see themselves. And
well, I think Davram and I it's interesting. Davram grew up in like a conservative section of Colorado, and I grew up in Kentucky. And a lot of my friends were conservative, and obviously it's a very conservative state. So we've kind of seen like both sides of the coin, so to speak. And also, maybe it's one of the reasons we feel like at home at some of these places where other people may not. But when just to go back to what you were saying about like the sense of community and all that stuff, it feels like that at a Trump rally, when you go to a Trump rally, a lot of the people we see, this is like their social group. Is the people like the real diehard Trump supporters that we see, the front row Joes as they're called. This is their social group. This is their group of friends. Yeah. And they seem honestly like very happy people. Like they have found their social group and they found like their friends, and they seem like they're decent to one another in this friend group. Like the ideas that Trump is putting out there, that they are ingesting and putting out into the world, are not, in my opinion, good ideas, but they seem to be like very, very happy people there. Right. So it's just interesting to think about that, the whole social network.
It is. They're
deadheads. They're all counting how many how many of these things they've been to. Like the closer you are to the front of the line, the more dedicated you are, and sometimes they're like tailgates. And people are famous in the little circles. There are some of these characters, like Jason said, we see at each one of these. Yeah, I think the more known you are, it's kind of cool. It's kind of a badge of honor, and it's like this traveling circus that people get to be a part of. So I think it's even bigger than just getting to say like, "Oh, this is my group of friends." It's like it's a whole identity. And
but Davram, do you remember we talked to somebody who said that they were like, I don't know if it was him or he said his friends did this, but they used to follow the dead around and they stopped, and now they follow Donald Trump. I swear to God.
Really? Was it the guy with the tie-dye shirt that had...
No, you would think it would be him. It was the guy outside Trump Tower who had like the fangs. It was like lion. But then he was talking. He was saying he's a lion, not a sheep. But he followed Donald Trump all around the country. That's like incredible. That is a deadhead, turned Trump supporter.
That is so hilarious. I was working as a young person in a local drugstore in Marin County at the time that Jerry Garcia died, and literally there were people in that store who, in the days after, like were in tears and wearing like black armbands in response to that. And I can only envision them now that you've told me this story as like having switched their black armbands out for red MAGA hats.
Well, we did a bit in our movie Undecided that there were Trump armbands. This was in 2016 that we like made Trump armbands as part of the movie, and people like reported on it, and it took them to wear them. It was a whole thing. I don't know if it was ahead of his time or... I'm not sure. We'll see what happens in 2024 or 2025 if he wins.
Yeah, that's going to be something. Let me ask you, like your backgrounds in either conservative parts of the country or in conservative environments, do those sort of like help you get in the front door at some of these events, and do you look back on that and say, "There, but for the grace of God, go I"? That Or when you talk to some of these people, say, "Hey, that could have been me."
I mean, I don't know. It depends. I guess with anybody, you could be like, "Well, if I took this step instead of that one, or that turn instead of that one, my life could have been totally different." I like to think that I would not, especially with what's happening now with Trumpism in the United States, that I wouldn't go down that path. But I don't know. I mean, it is an interesting thing to think about. Like I left Louisville, Kentucky when I was in high school and moved to Florida, like West Palm Beach, Florida, and that's Trump's backyard, literally. And so I wonder, staying in Kentucky, like my life would just go in a totally different direction. I probably wouldn't be into comedy, into politics. That's for sure. Probably be playing basketball in some small country somewhere or something like that. I'm not sure.